I'd like to call to order the Hatfield Township Board of Commissioners regular meeting for January 26, 2022. Roll call.
President Zipfel.
Here.
Vice President Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Andrus.
Here.
Commissioner Lees. Commissioner Zimmerman.
Here.
Okay, we have the Pledge of Allegiance this evening is a very special person who's going to do it. He's very excited to do it. That is our solicitor, John Iannozzi. I welcome him. If you would lead us in the pledge, John. Done so well, we will have you do it again in the future, I promise.
Only waited 3 years. I appreciate it.
All right, before we vote on the agenda, I have to note that we added an action item to the agenda, which is an opioid settlement participation action item. And so with that amendation, is there a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Andrus.
Second.
Second by Vice President Rogers. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we can move forward with that, with this agenda and with that amendment. All right, next is our consent items. Is there a motion to move into the record the consent items that are listed in your agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Vice President Rogers.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Zimmerman. Those items include the Board of Commissioners regular meeting minutes of December 15, the Board of Commissioners reorganization meeting minutes of January 3, the Board of Commissioners workshop meeting minutes of January 12, the Treasurer's report for the month of December, and the bills payable, paid bills in the amount of $27,900.78, and unpaid bills in the amount of $334,695.97. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor of moving those into the record, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is moved into the record. Those are moved into the record. Okay, citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments on agenda items? Okay, not seeing any. We are going to go to our first action item, our only action for the action item for the evening, which is the amendment we just made to the agenda, which is there a motion for approval of the opioid settlement participation? We'll talk about it in just a second. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Vice President Rogers, second by Commissioner Andrus. Aaron, I'm handing this over to the solicitor, right?
Our Pledge of Allegiance.
That's what I thought.
volunteer, Yes.
John, if you would walk us through this.
So this is very exciting news. The Attorney General was out in the forefront on this to negotiate a settlement with the pharmaceutical companies to alleviate the burden of the opioid epidemic that's been plaguing our country for some time now. With the hope with this settlement participation agreement, we will have an influx of money. Over $232 million will be coming into the Commonwealth in this upcoming year, ultimately $1 billion. And it's exciting news for helping families and individuals who are struggling with this dreaded disease that get the help and jumpstart the programs to help them get a little bit of hope in a situation that, not to tell the chief, right? What it does to societies and families. Ultimately, this settlement will have the money come into the states. The respective counties will assess the need, work with our boards to get the money where it needs to get to. So it's a good thing, Commonwealth.
And this, by agreeing to this, we're agreeing to our participation in the distribution of funds and the obligations that go along with it.
That's a good point. By agreeing to this, you're foregoing the right to sue the pharmaceutical companies alone. And let me just show you what the settlement agreements look like. I did not read all of this, but this is what it would take to sue the pharmaceutical companies. And some states have done that themselves, the individual municipalities, and it's actually caused more litigation delays and appeal issues. So I think this is definitely the way to go. Get the money in the hands of the individuals that need it. Recommending you approve.
Okay. Any questions or comments? All right. And thank you for not only the summary, but well said, because you accurately said it's a terrible scourge on when it hits a poor family, and this will hopefully help those in need. So, all right, if there's any other questions or comments, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion for approval, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. And we are going to jump right into our township updates. We have a number of updates for everyone this evening. So I'm going to hand over the microphone to our township manager and 10 different updates to bring us through this
Yeah.
evening.
Thanks, Mr.
Let
President.
me guess, they're slides.
Oh, there's absolutely slides. And obviously, we didn't have many action items tonight. We didn't have any until the settlement agreement came through. So we figured it'd be a good night to kick off the year and go through some of the more visible projects and give an update to the community. And please, commissioners, jump in. This can be a discussion, and any please jump in with any questions if you'd like to know more about any of this. I already learned a new word tonight, amendable. So thank you for that, Mr.
Amendation.
President. I missed that.
Amendation.
I'm not going to try that one. I learned it, already forgot it. Well done. All right, so the first update, I wanted to just make sure the board was aware and the community, and actually we have a homeowner here that's participating in this program, is the application for the FEMA funding to acquire 4 properties that have been prone to flooding over the years, and they're outlined here, and Mr. Newberry is here. Who lives in one of the homes on Sharon Road and has experienced significant flooding over the years. So the application was due and was submitted last weekend to acquire these 4 homes. Last time I was here, we had talked about 5. One of the homeowners has voluntarily dropped out of the program. So we have 4, and all of this is voluntary in nature. And the homeowners can still, even after, if the funding comes through, the homeowners can still decline acquisition. That's 100% up to each homeowner. Total submission for the 4 was $2.6 million. That's based on all costs associated with the acquisition, legal fees, demo costs, retrofitting each property into some type of stormwater facility after. So if we receive 100% of the funding, first of all, the homeowners will spend not a penny. Township will receive 100% of the funding from the federal government. So there is no local match. There is a state match, but there is no local match. So if we receive the funding, we'll be able to relieve these 4 homeowners of a lot of the stress and the burden that they've had to live with now for many years, and improve and mitigate some of the future flooding in that area. So we're very hopeful. Township has done this one other time on Lenhart, right next to the Arrow, Melody Brook Park. Similar situation several years ago, probably 10 to 15 years ago that happened, similar process. So we hope, we've been in communication with the property owners, and we hope to find something out from FEMA relatively soon, but ultimately we won't know for a little bit while longer once FEMA makes the grant announcement. So we really, of all the projects we've been involved in, and I really thank the commissioners for your support in pursuing this, but of all the ones we've been involved in, this one certainly has the most emotion tied around it because of the situation these homeowners are in. So we really would love to see the funding come through for this.
And I thought we're gonna, some of the COVID relief money. Program we're trying to apply for?
Correct, Commissioner. Yeah, we discussed a few things at our goals meeting, budget meeting, and we can talk about that more. So the township received stimulus money that can be used for projects. This would qualify for stormwater projects, which we have a few in mind. The plan was, depending on how much funding we get from the federal government, if we get a portion, we would be in a position where we could use some of that stimulus money to offset that. But we applied for all of it, and they usually don't give it out in smaller increments. It's either everything or nothing. So we may not need that. We'll use that for some other projects that we have here on this list. But there's more money available now for these projects than ever because of Hurricane Ida triggered much more funding, and COVID, for whatever reason, went into the same bucket. So yeah. But we hope we're successful. We've had a pretty good streak here. Next project, Commissioner Andrus's favorite project, one that we've been talking about for a while, is synchronizing all the traffic signals on the Route 463 corridor. So this is 40-foot road and Cowpath Road, including the signals in Hatfield Borough. This was a joint grant that we applied for with the borough back in 2016, believe it or not, and received $913,000 to implement this project. And it has not been an easy project, but I am here to tell you tonight that
Overcommit.
I've probably said in this room that many times that it would be done soon, but I'm told today by the folks working on this project from McMahon and Associates that all of the infrastructure is in. All of the signals now are connected by a fiber optic line, and within the next month or two, they will be fully synchronized. So there'll be another update when that goes live, but they're all finally communicating with each other. There's one more line that has to go in. It's coming into the Township building so we can monitor each signal to help troubleshoot, and our consultant will have access to that, but it is finally, the hard part's over. Now it's time to just get the software up and running, and hopefully it will help move the traffic through that corridor more efficiently. So, long time coming.
Comment there, Aaron. Line Lexington onto Calpath, that traffic light. I'm not sure whether it's the presence of a car or what the technology is, but my daughter said they waited there 15 minutes not too long.
Hear about that one
I asked them why they
often.
didn't make a right and turn around, but
That's a tricky one, and our vendor is not entirely sure why it happens that way. They go out there and it's functioning properly. Everything we have is video detection now, and whether it's a glare of the sun or, I don't know. But we have looked at that one dozens of times, and it appears to be working, but then we hear from others that it's not. It's a tricky one. We'll continue to look at it.
This accommodate emergency vehicles?
Sure. Like all signals, yeah, not the police, but the ambulance, fire companies.
accommodate the police through traffic signals?
Police do not have preemption authority. Pass a resolution to
Like to.
advocate for it, but like the radars that they're not allowed to use.
Right.
It's a similar type, but you need legislation to approve that. So you may have seen the new wires that have gone up over the past, this has been going on now for about 3 years. Coordination with every utility, it hasn't been easy, but we're there. So hopefully in the next few months, we'll see the difference.
That's not very good. 5 years?
Yeah.
I think that the physical work has been about 3 years, but you're right. It's been 5 going on 6 now.
I'm hopeful. I think that'll help tremendously in rush hour to improve it.
Sure. It better. All right, so another one of our exciting projects, 22, that the commissioners approved throughout our goals and budget meeting were some improvements to School Road Park, and specifically the playgrounds. Last year, the commissioners paved the parking lots. We have the new digital signs that went in, and now this year we're going to put in some new playgrounds. I had to tee it up before I didn't want to ruin the surprise, Commissioner. So we have 3. So we're looking at 3 different playgrounds. What we want to do with this is, no one in here is probably going down a slide anytime soon. So we want to get engagement from the community. So we're going to put these 3 options on Facebook either tomorrow or early next week and have a survey to get some feedback from our community about which one they prefer. And then we also are going to get some feedback from our volunteer boards. But we're looking at 3 different playgrounds, all in the same price range, all a major upgrade from what we have there now in School Road Park. I don't know if you want to weigh in on any of these, but they all look eerily similar. But
I'll ask my niece and nephew.
Accommodate seniors?
actually, though, good question, Vice President Rogers. These are considered inclusive playgrounds, meaning they will accommodate children of all abilities, and all people with all different needs can play together happily. So that's a huge upgrade from what we have now as far as accessibility goes. But we'll get feedback. It's been the budget. We'll see what the community thinks, and then hopefully we'll have these installed before the summer. That's the goal.
And that goes up on the website for people to review and vote?
Facebook.
Facebook?
Yep. It's going to go through Facebook as a survey with the pictures. They get to vote, comment.
As quickly as tomorrow?
I believe that's the plan.
Okay.
Yeah, if not, short.
Okay, but we'll keep it open for a while so people can have it.
Absolutely, yeah.
I know some people who will probably be very interested to.
Sure. I mean, this is for the community, so we want to make sure the community has input.
I think we can mix and match too, right? I think
For sure.
like
There's
if
a
you
lot of-
like if you wanted just that little one, but not that big one, you might want the big one from option 1 or 2.
Yeah, without question. If we get overwhelming feedback in the comment sections about certain things, we can absolutely modify. These were just some designs that the vendor gave us.
Have the rubberized surface?
Yes. Yep, no more wood chips, all the squishy, rubberized, maintenance-free, safer. All right, moving on to another grant that we have talked about a few times, and Liberty Bell Trail that's coming our way, Commissioner, just so you know, in the next few months, the consultant who helped design the feasibility plan, Michael Baker International, is going to be coming in and presenting the final feasibility plan of the Liberty Bell Trail. But a portion that we know for certain is this section here behind Giant, Snyder Square Shopping Center. This is the Harrington Village and the townhomes, and here's Giant just to help orient yourself, or Villa, Cowpath. This particular section that the massive arrow is pointing to, we've talked about it before. We recently submitted an application for more federal money to build that portion of it, $1 million. Application was submitted in the fall. DVRPC, which is the Regional Planning Commission, it goes through a process of DVRPC then to the state and then ultimately awarded. We're hearing that DVRPC is endorsing this application. They believe it's an important connection for this, what they consider a regionally significant trail. So if we get the blessing from DVRPC and it goes to the state, there's a very good chance we'll get it at that point. So I think there's a meeting tomorrow, we'll find something out, and then after that, if we get it, that's 100% construction money, so we'll be able to build it.
It's on the abandoned rail line, right? That's where that goes.
Correct. Right along the rail line on the other side of Tarrington. It will then ultimately connect with where Diddens is, and it will connect with Hatfield Borough's portion of Liberty Trail, which then connects to our trail system. So it's a big section of the Liberty Bell Trail that we'll be able to build if we get this grant. You can see the other portion here is a little trickier, but then this will connect us to Lansdale Borough. This is it's an easy route. It's just tough from a physical standpoint. There's trees, there's no sidewalk, there's some culverts, so we can ask Michael Baker what they have in store, but
Now there's only from the borough to Orvilla then?
just this. No, it's this section.
Villa, isn't it?
Yep.
Yep, or Villa, yes, Hatfield Borough, sorry, I was thinking Lansdale Borough, yes. It's this section right here. There was only one property owner, it's PP&L. PP&L gave its blessing to us to build it. Now we just need the funding, but we're getting close.
And that path will accommodate bicycles?
Yeah, it'll be 10 to 12 foot wide asphalt trail, which is what we're trying to, all our new trails should be in a similar fashion. Depending on we'll see how it's designed to get through certain places, it might shrink, but yeah, it'll be a nice connection. Yeah, so specifically, this is a zoomed-in portion of that, just so you can see. This entire piece of property is owned by PP&L. Now, this property here is owned by Diddens. Diddens has a project that is coming up at some point, coming our way, and they've already given us a verbal agreement that they would be willing to give the township an easement for the trail to go over. So we're working with them on the timing of all this.
So is the plan to go down Schwab Road?
The last draft I saw, yes. But it does get tricky there. So when they come and present the final plan, let's look at it, because it may have a little different route. That was,
Bob Road, they're going to use the public thoroughfare, the public roadway for that.
their plan was to have a defined trail at every section of this. So how they pull that off, I'm not entirely sure yet. You can have some shared portions, you can get creative, but the county and the other groups that give the funding, they want to see it to be a dedicated trail. Said than done, some places.
From that perspective, the culverts, the grates, all have been addressed on, say it's Schwab. Are they all, I guess, perpendicular to the curb for people?
But bicycle safe? Most of ours are, not all. There's still some that aren't. And we upgrade them as we go, for sure. But then we also upgraded ones that were along what we consider more of a biking and walking route throughout the town, but there are still some that are parallel.
Operating as we go is when we go into a neighborhood or a community and surface the roadways then.
That way, without question, but then also we do get to them if they're deteriorating, or if someone says that this is my route to bike and it's not safe, we will swap them out. And for the most part, the majority of them are bike friendly. Not all, though. All right, moving on to the Aquatic Center. The commissioners approved some upgrades to the facility going into the 2022 season. Some of them have already been completed, as you'll see here. Some of the brick was removed and some painting to increase the look and the safety of some of the pillars near the concession stand. This work had been done on some of the warm days we had toward the end of the year.
Back up though, that wasn't for an aesthetic reason. That was because the pillars themselves were getting saturated with water and deteriorating over time.
Yeah, water was going behind the brick, exactly. Yeah, so it needed to be done, without question. Also, we installed a new path, which I think, I think this picture gives you a sense on where it is. It's to the left of the entrance when you're walking in. What this does is gives us the ability to get contractors in and out. We had I think they call that a pervious type of path before, and the grass wasn't growing and it didn't look really nice. So we put a concrete path in this off season, and we would like to also use it for food trucks to bring in on certain days of the week to have food truck Fridays or other options of getting certain pieces of equipment into the facility. We've looked at it for years, and the pool board commissioners approved it this past year, so that's done.
Great upgrade, because it
I think
has
so.
looked pretty disheveled over that space.
Yeah. Agreed. One other thing we're working on this off season, a lot of the feedback we received in the last few years was that our registration for the Aquatic Center, the software we were using was clunky and not user friendly, and it took too long, and it wasn't great on the mobile view, and there were people of all ages struggling with getting a quick registration to get into the facility. So we're working with our friends from Tracer, which is a company that provides us our software for all of our permitting and asset management. All the funky maps I show you come from Tracer. We're the first municipal customer. We were actually one of the first municipal customers of Tracer in general, but we're going to be the first customer for a registration platform for the Aquatic Center. So they're designing it for us from scratch. We're working on it. Commissioner Andrus has given me a bunch of feedback, and as well as the Aquatic Center, the advisory board has looked at it, and we're still making our way through it, getting closer to being finished, but we hope to have memberships on sale by early March. So the goal of the platform is easy, quick, simple for all ages.
Before we jump to the next one, the handicap ramp that we put in there for the crossing for Vine Street, got quite a few positive comments about that, and I'm sure that once we open up for the summer, you're going to hear more. That's really nice. They did a fantastic job.
Thanks, Vice President. Yeah, that was a nice upgrade. We also, when that was being installed, we also put one on Line Lexington. We had a request from some residents who, now because of COVID, more kids are walking to school than ever, don't want to go on the bus. There was a group of kids that were crossing Line Lexington to go to AM Cope, and they felt like it was not as safe as it could be, so we put a crosswalk there. Then once you put a crosswalk, you have to put in the ramps as well. So we installed the ramps there at the same time in the last few months, and a lot of good feedback on that as well. So trying to make things walkable and safe as we can. One of our other partners in service is the VMSC, our Volunteer Medical Service Corps. For the first time in the organization's entirety, they have a paid chief. And I was going to talk about Commissioner Lees tonight. He's not joining us, but President Zipfel and Commissioner Lees were really instrumental in making that happen. Commissioner Lees is a paramedic, for those of you who are not aware, and brought a bunch of issues to our attention back in early 2020. And since then, we've been working with VMSC directly, and they've been very responsive, and we're working with all the communities in the North Penn area footprint. And they decided it was time to shift away from that volunteer as a chief model and go to a paid chief model, which is the industry trend and for many reasons makes a lot of sense for a pretty big and very important organization. So just recently, Shane Wheeler was hired from West Virginia and came on and became the chief, and we'll meet him in here. He certainly, to me, looks like a leader with that haircut. He seems ready and poised to lead this community. But we will bring him in the room, and we'll meet him over the next few months. And so far, I've met him a few times, and he's doing a great job. I think, you would think about, I think about 120,000 people live in the footprint that VMSE covers. And for the last 100 years, they've been run by a volunteer. And many times, for many of those years, all volunteers. And now the majority of their staff is paid, and it's a professional organization, but it was always led still, even as of last year, by a volunteer chief. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And they saw that. They changed the bylaws. They hired a chief, and he's doing a great job. And already things are much different. So it's good news for the community for sure. Some of the basin work that we plan on continuing to do, and I know some of the neighbors are here. Two neighbors that are highly interested in this topic are here tonight, and we've talked about these basins more than all of us probably want to in this room. But a year ago, we hired a consultant, a guy named Rick Collier, who helped us with the stepping stones over the years on our Fritz Trail, and he and his team are giving us some suggestions on how to make these two basins better. And Commissioner Andrews, this was one of the main projects that we earmarked with the stimulus money, depending on how much we have with the FEMA projects. But a lot of those fundings can be used to help improve stormwater management facilities. So we've had 2 resident meetings already with the Stewart Drive Basin. We're going to have a third in March to finalize the plan. And then the plan is to then come back to the board and bid the project out and make some upgrades to the Stewart Basin. Commissioner Rogers has been involved throughout, and we had an on-site meeting a few months ago. At the time, maybe 6 months ago now. I think it was warm, so it wasn't the winter, but got a lot of great feedback from the residents in the community, and I think most, if not all, of their concerns are met in what is being proposed. Downing, a much bigger and more complicated basin, as Sergeant Tarter will, I'm sure, maybe explain to us this evening. We are going to have our first resident meeting with that group coming up, and one of our consultants who works for Rick happens to live about 4 doors down from Downing, so he knows exactly how that works and has a lot of ideas on how to make it better. So we're going to be going through that process with them, and the cost of that's going to be significant because we know exactly what the concerns are, and we're going to really try to make it happen to make the improvements that the residents want. In order to do so, it's going to cost, it's not going to be inexpensive. So we'll probably pursue some grant money, use some stimulus money to match it, and leverage that, and hopefully make a big improvement there. But that process it's begun, but it's going to get, we're going to involve the residents now here shortly in that one as we finish up the Stewart process with the residents. So hearing more about those over the next few months.
So at one point, basins were put in and not owned by the community. There are now basins that are owned by residents, correct?
Most of the basins now are owned by homeowners associations.
These are not. These are
Township-owned
Township
basins,
owned.
correct.
by homeowners association, but I know of one that's not.
There's also many basins that are owned by individual residents.
Is there any try to approach those and take ownership of those? I can't imagine the residents are going to keep those up very well.
Well, I know the one we had, Lee's Way, there were some issues there, and we worked to resolve the issues. They didn't put out any money for it. Even though they own it, I think we have some responsibility. I think we do take that responsibility.
We've helped with the infrastructure of some of those basins on the private lots. We've gone in and done like major clean outs for them that they can't do on their own, and then they maintain it moving forward. I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Andrews. There, you see just some of the basins here highlighted in blue.
Yeah.
There are a lot of privately owned basins. It would just be an enormous responsibility for us to assume ownership of all of those.
So some of the owners of those basins have approached the township in some way, shape,
Yeah, right.
kicked it off.
Yeah, some of them will come when the pipe breaks, for example, or the head wall ages and they need something major done, and we've been willing to help on the infrastructure. But the day-to-day maintenance, it is the homeowner's responsibility.
My thought was, does it make sense to survey and say, hey, this thing's about to fail? Top of it before it fails.
We could look at that. I mean, the first step might be just to get a sense on how many there are, and not all of them have infrastructure. Some of them are just
And swales and
swales or-
stuff like
right,
that. Yeah.
exactly. There's a variety of them. I think that's it, Commissioners. We're off to a fast start in '22. A lot of good stuff, and we hope to have more good announcements coming up.
Aaron, 5, 6,
Did I miscount? What did I do wrong?
5, 6, 7?
I don't think you had.
Oh, yeah,
sli-
there's no
you
slides.
didn't have
Yeah,
slides
yeah,
on
thank
those.
you, thank you. I thought the counting was
No,
off,
no,
yeah.
no.
Yeah, so a few other administrative updates, more housekeeping without a visual. One is we're going through police hiring. Chief's going to give the update, a quick update to the board on where we are there. The commissioners, a few months ago, began the process with the civil service, and then it goes in the chief's hands. And where are we, Chief?
Did complete the written part of the testing process, and we've completed interviews. So we'll put a list together for the civil service. Hopefully, they'll approve where we're moving, and then we'll present a name to hiring that individual at that point.
So sometime in March, beginning of March.
Whoever passed the physical part of it got an opportunity to test.
With our regulation, we have, civil services, we have to interview the top 26 scores, so, and, 25 plus ties, so we interviewed. Narrow that down to 3 for the board.
Your modification to hiring, does that help?
Actually, no. But the hope is that over time it will. Roll the way it is, and we see everybody getting less and less applicants, not just us. I mean, we had 74 people apply this time. That 74 used to be 400. Marion used to have 3,000, now they get 300. So, change across the board, but hopefully in time, people will come back, and that new act will actually help people.
Hired somebody who went,
Get out of the police academy. He's actually on the road now. He's in training with our officers on the road. So he did graduate from the academy, and he's out and
On a similar note, we're hiring a public works laborer. We don't have to go through such a extensive process for a position like that, but we are openly advertising and accepting applications. If anybody is interested, you can go on our website, Facebook page, and submit an application. We're hoping to make that hire in the next 6 weeks-ish. Other update, traffic signal, Durstein Cowpath. We hear about this one often because the contractor put the signal in relatively early in the process, so everyone assumed it was going to get turned on immediately. The obligation from the developer, which is who's paying for that new signal, for the developer of the new property at Cowpath and Township line, was obligated to turn the signal on before the first occupant of the first house, which they're way ahead of that. But the fact that it's up and was ready, we heard from a lot of residents about 6 weeks ago-ish. So we pushed them and said, let's get that thing turned on, start the lengthy process with PennDOT. We had a on-site inspection a week or two ago where we thought we were going to turn it on, and it failed because of the striping in the road was not what they wanted. So weather, you can't go out and paint right now. It's cold. So we have to wait for a few days of 40 and rising, and the crew will get out there. It's not us, it's a subcontractor. And when you see the restriping occur, the signal's going to be on shortly thereafter. 5 to 7 days, flashers, and then fully operational. But there's been some confusion out there. There's been some confusion in a few intersections where there's a lot of activity and construction, but we're going to get it turned on as soon as we possibly get the approval from PennDOT from. Yeah, I think that's it, Commissioners.
I think that's everything.
That was enough.
No, that's great updates. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, we've already handled our one action item. Those are the updates. Any citizens' comments? Yes, sir. Mr. Charter.
Ed Tarter, Downing Drive. Christmas came and went, and I got coal in my stocking for the retention basin. I'm here about the Downing Drive retention basin. It's been a month since I was here last. Nothing's changed other than the weather. We've had cold, we've had rain, we've had snow. I'm wondering if there's anything we can do, at least temporary. We have machines out there that cut the grass or the weeds or whatever you want to call it. We have machines that I know have arms that they use for along the shoulder of the road. Any chance they could use the same machines for that, to cut the cattails and then possibly harvest them off to the side until such time as you can come in and do a more permanent removal?
Sir, I think this week or early next week, it may happen. I'm told the ground is frozen and dry, and they're going to try to get out there.
I was just out there before I came to the meeting. It's somewhat firm. There is water in the trough, though, where the weeds are growing.
Okay.
I mean, literally, it's a foot deep.
Okay.
But with the machines that they use along the shoulder of the road with an arm, they could cut it and then possibly reach out and drag it out off to the side where they won't get stuck.
Okay.
So I'd appreciate anything you do to make it less of an eyesore until you can make a more permanent solution to the issue.
Sure.
Thank you.
You.
Thanks, Ed. All right, any other citizens' comments? All right, if not, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
By Commissioner Andrews, second by Vice President Rogers. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thanks for coming out, folks.